Just there we go.
Welcome,
Right.
welcome to our YouTube channel. This is Women in Business, and we aim to polish you until you shine and to shine you until you sparkle. That is our mission this year. As the Women in Business Committee, we just want to make sure that you're shining, and we're so happy that you tuned into our YouTube channel. This is our coffee and conversation, and we've got on these 3 months we've been just focusing on finances, on how we can plan better, on how we can use our money better as businesswomen. So today we've got a guest from InvestPro. His name is Jurie van der Walt, and he's going to share his pearls of wisdom with us so that we can become better people. If you're coming in, I see some people are joining at the moment. You can just put in your details in the chat and tell us who you are, where you come from, and what you're hoping to learn today. I'd like to hand over to you, Jurie. You can have the platform.
Awesome. Perfect. So thank you so much, first of all. I think it's an awesome thing that you guys are doing. So really thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be able to speak and to do what I love doing is assisting people, and also being able to assist people specifically with their finances. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share a screen with you. Sorry, Napoli, if you don't mind just giving me permission to share the screen. There we go. Thank you so much. Awesome. So there we go. Now, just to introduce myself, my name is Jurie van der Walt, and I'm one of the sales leaders of a company called InvestPro. Now, majority of you would think, who is InvestPro? So just a quick background about us and where we come from. Now, InvestPro was established in 1998, so we've been around for 24 years, going on 25 years this year. We are an affiliate of Liberty. We're one of Liberty's NDPs at the moment, so a national distribution partner. So we've got offices around the country. Now, inside the InvestPro team or the InvestPro family, we currently just over 300 financial advisors that's assisting our clients. We've got 6 branches nationwide. Like I mentioned, we're servicing just over 28,000 clients, and then we've got assets under management in excess of 6 billion rands of assets. So that's just some background about us, and the only reason I'm introducing our company is just to put your mind at ease that we're not a fly-by-night company, and I hope that you get something out of this as well. Now, what we can offer our clients, so we do holistic financial planning. And the first thing that we can assist our clients with is the long-term insurance. So that ties into the life cover, the disability, dreaded disease, etc. We've got a short-term department, so we assist our clients with the short-term insurances, whether that be car insurance, household items insurance, and so forth. We've got a medical aid department as well, so we can assist our clients with medical aid, some investment planning, retirement planning, which is a big thing, and then also the last will and testament for our clients. Now, one of the big things specifically for women in business, being business owners, is a thing called corporate solutions, and that's where we can assist your company with corporate solutions as well, whether that be group risk covers, etc. Now, before we get into the question of why it's important to plan ahead, we must first look at the 5 problems in life when it comes to finances. So the first thing is living too long. Now, that might not seem as a problem, seem that you can spend more quality time with family members, with spouses, with your kids, etc. But when it comes to financial planning, that's where it becomes tricky if you're living too long. Now, what it means by that is living too long is you might outlive your money. Now, what I mean by that is everyone saves up for retirement to retire one day. And if you're living too long, there might be a chance that you outlive your money, which can be a problem. The next one is dying too soon. Now, I'm pretty sure this is something no one really ever thought of or don't want to think about, because you never know when it might happen. But it's a real problem in life when it comes to dying too soon. And you want to make sure that you've got your stuff in place so that should that event happen yesterday, I don't want to jinx anything, so I use yesterday, but should that event happen yesterday, that your loved ones are taken care of. The next thing is inflation and tax. Now, if we look at inflation and tax, I read a very interesting article this morning on MoneyWeb, and I've got the statistics here with me. But if we look at the inflation rate now, specifically the prime rate, it's increased from 7% all the way to 11.25% at the moment in the past 17 months. So that's quite a substantial increase in the repo rate. And if you look at what it means towards clients' expenses and their cash flow, it's quite scary to think about. Now, looking at the statistics that they mentioned, is if we just look at your car premium and your bond. Now, your car premium went up by 12% and the bond by 38%, which is a very, very scary statistic. If we look at petrol, now South Africans are spending 16% more on petrol this month compared to last year this month, and 8% more on groceries. Now, that's a very scary thing if you think about it, because that affects your cash flow on a monthly basis. That's additional money that you can spend that you would have spent somewhere else, going towards petrol, going towards the bond, etc. So that's why inflation and tax also becomes a massive problem. The fourth one being hospitalized. Now, when speaking about being hospitalized, it is the inadequate provision being made in the event of a medical emergency. Okay. Now, let me give you an example, because being treated by a doctor can be quite expensive. So I've got a six-month-old baby at the moment. It's a boy, also Jurie. And I had medical savings through my medical aid, and it's beginning of pretty much middle of the year, but beginning of this year, I don't have any savings left because of the expense incurred while going to doctors to just make sure that your loved ones are taken care of. And I had to delve into my personal savings just to keep up with everything. And then lastly, the fifth one is a disability and a dreaded disease. Now that is pretty self-explanatory, but the question I want to ask here is, what happens if you were to become disabled yesterday, or you were to contract a dreaded disease, and you don't have the ability to generate an income anymore? How does that affect your monthly income, your finances, your planning, etc.? Now, the second topic to look at before we can answer the question of the importance of planning ahead is we need to understand the 5 areas when it comes to financial planning. So the first one, we speak about protection. Now, with protection, we specifically look at protecting your family, protecting your personal assets, your income, your businesses, and eventually also the legacy, to protect your legacy. The second one is when it comes to estate planning. Now, with regards to estate planning, it's very, very important to make sure that there's sufficient liquidity inside of your estate so that your wishes are granted if something were to happen to you yesterday. And that ties in closely to the importance of having a will in place as well. Thirdly, we look at retirement planning. So retirement planning is planning for the future. That is, we will delve into this a little bit deeper in the coming slides. But retirement planning is making sure that you made sufficient provision for your retirement to retire comfortably after retirement. Now, fourth is investment planning. So what we look at there is building an emergency fund, building wealth, building capital. And then lastly, another area is tax planning. So the one thing South Africans all have in common is we all love to pay SARS tax. I'm joking, that's horrible. It's never nice to pay tax. And when we speak of tax planning in financial planning is to make your planning strategy as tax efficient as possible. Wonderful. And then lastly, the third thing, just to understand and wrap our head around before we answer that question of the importance of planning ahead, is the financial planning process. Now, the first step is to sit with our clients and to gather information from that client. The second step is then to establish a goal and objectives for the client, or the client to establish it. Third, to analyze the current financial situation. So what we like to call in our industry, or specifically at InvestPro, is we'd like to have a look at where you're currently at in terms of your finances, which is point A. We have a look at where you want to be, which is point B. And then we set a planning strategy in place. And it's a step-by-step process. Not everyone can take that step in one giant leap. So it's a step-by-step process that we work on with our clients continuously to eventually reach your financial goal. Now, the fourth one is developing and presenting a financial plan. So that's a financial needs analysis. Fifth, to implement the plan. And then sixth, to continuously review that with our clients to make sure that they hit their financial goals. Wonderful. So now to actually come to the question on why should you plan ahead? So if we look at this, there is a few topics that we can delve into. So the first one is leaving a legacy, and that depends on what legacy you want to leave. Okay, estate planning. Specifically, it's important to make sure that we plan ahead for estate planning, which we'll also delve into a little bit later once we get to the sections. Planning for retirement, that's another one. Fourth, investment planning. And then lastly, planning as a businesswoman. Okay, so these are the 5 topics that we're gonna speak about on why it's important that you should plan ahead. Wonderful. So the first one is leaving a legacy or risk planning. Now, back to my question is what legacy would you like to leave behind? Now, risk planning is one of the least considered categories in one's financial portfolio, but yet it's the most important part. Okay. Now, here we speak about life cover, disability, dreaded disease, income protector, etc. And to go back to my question, the question I asked previously is, what legacy do you want to leave? Now, the legacy that you leave, will it be one where your kids, your family, your spouse say, awesome, my wife took the time to actually plan ahead and to make sure that our house isn't taken if she were to pass away yesterday. The legacy that you leave your kids, that they have enough to weather the storms, that she made sure, my mom made sure that there's still a roof over my head, and also to make sure that I've still got a future to live. I've got education, my education is paid for. Or would you like to leave a legacy where your family is in financial ruin because the executor had to sell the house that your husband is living in, just to settle estate duties or to settle executor fees? So that's why leaving a legacy and planning ahead for risk planning is such an important thing. And that's why it's one of the most important things when it comes to financial planning. Now, I spoke about leaving a legacy now for parents, for spouses, for children. So I want to ask you the question, who here has parents that they're looking after? Who's got children that they're looking after? Now, if something were to happen to you yesterday, how does that affect the people around you? Will your parents have to go without an income because of something that happened to you and you paying them on a monthly basis, and now the taps have run dry? So that's the legacy that we speak about, and the importance of planning to leave a legacy for your parents, for your spouse, for your children, etc. Now, the next one is then the importance of planning is to make sure that we plan for estate expenses. So that ties hand in hand with leaving a legacy, as well as having a will in place, which I'll get to in the next slide. But planning for estate expenses is a very important thing, because it is expensive to pass away. And I mentioned estate duties earlier. Now, if we were to look at estate expenses, the first thing that pops up is executive fees, and that's roughly 4.02%, including that of your entire estate. What I mean by entire estate is every single thing that you own, whether that be a table, a car, a house, cash in the bank, everything that you own forms part of your estate. Now, let's use an example where you've got 10 million worth, your estate, if you were to pass away yesterday, is 10 million. That means 400,000 Rand will go towards executors' fees. That is just to wrap up your estate, to make sure that it's done in a timeless matter. Secondly is master of the court fees. Now that's maximum of 7,000, so that's not a big expense, but it's still something that we need to cater for. The transfer cost of property of over 1 million is between 8% to 10%, so that actually increased to 1.1 million. But then let's say that you've got properties and you would like to move that properties over to your kids if something were to happen to you yesterday, to transfer that property over into their names. There's a massive cost involved with that. And then lastly, the big one is estate duties. Now, estate duties is taxes that you pay if you were to pass away. Now, the first 30 million of your estate attracts 20% estate duties, and everything over 30 million attracts an additional 25%. So again, use the example of having an estate of 10 million. If you were to pass away yesterday with that 10 million estate, 20% of that 2 million will go towards estate duties, minus the 400,000 of executive fees, minus the transfer costs of the property. And that all adds up. And that's one thing that we've seen that actually has a massive, massive impact on a person's plans. Because if something were to happen to me, I would like to leave everything to my wife and to my son. And if I don't cater for this, they won't get what I want them to get, if that makes sense. Now, this ties into the estate, into having a will in place. And that's the next topic tied into this, is you need to have a will in place. Especially when it comes to estate duties and those kind of things. Now, having a will is the foundation of financial planning. That's the actual first step of financial planning, is to make sure that every single client that you sit with, that we sit with, has a valid will in place. Now, your will is my command, and that is your last will and testament. So inside of the will, it states how your assets should be distributed between family members, between kids, to your spouse. And the danger comes in if there's no will in place. Now, if you don't have a will, what happens is the Master of the High Court appoints an executor. And what that means is that executor's got no idea who you are, who works for the government, and that process can take up to 10 years to wrap up your estate. Now, if your will and your planning isn't properly planned, your financial planning isn't properly planned, that means that your wishes won't be granted. And if an executor is appointed that you haven't nominated, that means you've got no say in how your assets will be distributed. On the flip side, if you do have a will in place, you state exactly what you want to happen. You can say that my husband should get this car, my son should get this flat or this house, this person needs to take over my business, etc. And it can take anything from 6 to 12 months to wrap up your estate. There's a dedicated executor, which it's his duty, his job to wrap it up as quick as possible. Now, just some scary statistics, if we get to a will, is that less than 15% of South Africa has a valid will in place. 19% of South Africa have life cover, so that's a very, very low value. And then 4.5 million members and beneficiaries from a will are affected by unclaimed assets. And that is due to the long time it takes to wrap up a will, to wrap up your estate if you don't have a will in place. Wonderful. So the next one is planning for retirement. And if we look at retirement, now, This is the second most important category of financial planning. The first being your risk planning. So the second one is retirement. Let's say that on average, a person starts at the age of 25, starts working, and then works to the average age of 65. So that's 40 years that you can save up for retirement. And if we sit with our clients, we do planning to ensure that we assist our clients from the age of 65 to the age of 90. This is where the living too long, dying too soon comes in. But we plan for a period of 25 years worth of income that you need to provide yourself with. Now, the quicker and the earlier you start in saving towards retirement, the better. So compound interest is pretty much the sixth wonder of the world, where a little bit today can make a massive difference in the future. To put it in perspective, let's say that I want to retire with X amount at the age of 65, to withdraw 30,000 Rand a month. That'll be sufficient. Now, due to the calculations, or if the calculation said that I need to start saving now till the age of 65 and I need to contribute 5,000 Rand towards a retirement annuity. If I delay this process for 5 years, that means I need to double my contribution to get to the same value. So people might think that, what does it help if I start saving 500 Rand a month towards retirement? It's not enough, but it's going to make a massive difference in the future due to compound interest. And the earlier you start, the better. Now, again, some statistics. While doing planning for this presentation, I came across an article, and it states that 36.1% of South African people have a retirement product, which is crazy. That's really not a lot of people. And only 7.2% of retired people stated that they felt prepared and they retire comfortably. Now, if we look at the ages of people between 55 and 59, which is still 10 to 5 years from retirement, only 52% of those people within the age of 55 to 59 in South Africa has a retirement plan, which is very scary. A very cool thing about a retirement annuity is the tax benefit that we can utilize. And what I always like to tell my clients is, let's make SARS pay for your assets, pay for your bond, for your tax-free savings. And what I mean by that is a maximum of 27.5% of your taxable income you can reclaim back from tax, or to the maximum of 350,000 Rand that you're contributing towards a retirement annuity. Now, to make this equation easy to understand is, let's say you earn R1 million per annum. If you don't have a retirement annuity, you're going to be taxed as earning R1 million. On the flip side, if you earn R1 million per annum and you contribute 200,000 Rand towards let's make it 100,000 Rand towards your retirement for that year, you're only going to be taxed on 900,000 Rand worth of income, not the million, and that's how we get that tax benefit back. Now, there's one of two ways in which we can utilize that. The first one is to do something we call salary restructuring, to make sure that you get that tax rebate back on a monthly basis, to assist you with cash flow. So that is where inside of your salary slip, you have that as a deduction. You have your retirement contribution as a deduction. The second step, or the second method in doing this, is to pay as per normal on a monthly basis. And then once you do your SARS e-filing, we provide you with a tax certificate. You add that with your SARS e-filing, and you get that back as a lump sum. So that's the 12 months worth of contribution rebate that you're getting back as a lump sum. Perfect. So thirdly, investment planning. And why is it important to have investments, to plan, specifically do investment planning? Now, we primarily look at two main products. The first one being a unit trust, and the second one being a endowment. I flipped them around, I do apologize. So let's look at the endowment first. So the endowment is your medium to long-term investments. That's we call it your goal-based investments. So there's a specific goal that you have in mind, whether that be paying for kids' education, paying for their tertiary education, buying them a car one day, going on an overseas trip, deposit on a house, whatever that might be. There's a specific goal behind that investment. It's a fixed investment. I apologize. So it's fixed for a minimum of 5 years, and after 5 years, it becomes flexible. Now, the cool thing about the endowment structure, or the investing builder structure, is that it is tax exempt in the hands of the investor through the 5-fund tax approach. So that means Liberty pays the tax, or whatever company pays the tax on your behalf. So you, as the investor, is not affected by the tax. Second one is your unit trust. So that's the short-term to medium-term investments. Now that ideally we call the emergency fund. That is, should something happen yesterday, I need immediate cash liquidity. I don't have time or want to use the credit card, do a personal loan, and pay massive amounts of interest on that. So your emergency fund is usually 3 to 6 times your monthly income saved up in an easy, accessible, very conservative investment, because you never know when the emergency might happen. And that is specifically for emergencies. We call it your rainy day fund as well. So that's to make sure that you don't have to incur debt to sustain your lifestyle or to assist you out of that emergency. It's a flexible investment, like I mentioned, and there's no penalties if you need to access the funds. Perfect. Then, lastly, planning as a business owner. So with the topic being women in business, being a business owner comes with its pros, but also with its cons. Now, why is it important for a business owner or a businesswoman to plan ahead? First of all, the important thing is to make sure that we cover everything that I've just discussed, the estate duties, investment planning, risk planning, retirement planning, leaving a legacy, etc. But secondly, if we look at people working in the corporate world, working for someone, working for a salary, they get benefits, which is called corporate benefits. So that's your group risk covers, the life cover in place through the company, the income protection, pension, provident fund, medical aid benefits. And that is sometimes paid fully by the company, partially by the company, and some unlucky people out there unfortunately have to pay that themselves through the company. But you do get those benefits by working at a certain place. Now, being a businesswoman, the chances of you having corporate benefits, if you don't have a company of employees of more than 14, or actually engage with a financial advisor to assist you with corporate benefits, the chances of having that is pretty slim. Now, that means that the chances that you don't have any group risk cover in place, so there's no life cover, no disability cover, no dreaded disease cover, there's no pension fund, no provident fund, and being a business owner, being a businesswoman, you need to look after yourself. You need to plan for this yourself. So, like I mentioned, corporate people might have the group risk covers, the pension, provident funds, the medical aid. But if you don't have this in place, it's very, very important that you look after yourself to make sure that you do have your life cover in place. You do have your disability in place. You do have your dreaded disease in place. Saving up for a retirement annuity for your specific retirement. So that's pretty much the most important part is looking after yourself and everything that I've discussed previously as well. So what myself and Ayanda would like to offer you is a chance to do some financial planning, to sit with myself, to sit with Ayanda, so we can take you through a complete process of financial planning. I don't want to give too much away in this presentation because I want to offer you the chance to come sit with us so we can do proper financial planning, to get a proper plan and strategy in place to make sure that we take you from point A to point B in a step-by-step process. So I have created a Microsoft Forms. If you're interested, kindly scan the barcode. You can fill in your name, your surname, your email address and cell phone number. And then there's also a priority list of what's your priority. What would you if you sit with us, look at first? Would that be taking care of your family through risk covers, making sure that you've saved up sufficiently for retirement, short-term medical aid, whatever that might be? So kindly scan the form, and we'll get in touch with you definitely. So thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Nopilo, thank you so much for offering us the platform to discuss things like this, the important financial things in life. I don't know if there is any questions from the floor. If you might have any questions, I'm always willing to assist and to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Jurie, for that presentation. Sometimes we don't want to talk about finances, and that's what was said in our coffee and conversation last month, that we'd rather not talk about money because we just think it's not important until we need it, until we feel like we should have done this earlier, There was a question in the chat. Nokolo, do you want to ask your question?
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for that insightful presentation, Jurie.
Awesome.
My question is, sorry, I'm in my PJs, so I don't want to show my face. With this load shedding, it just forces you to sleep.
Definitely.
My question is that I'm in my 50s. My husband is counting 4 years before retirement.
Okay.
I was retrenched at some point, so I've got those bills that I still need to pay, high and low. So which ones are best to tackle first? That's one of my questions. Number two, if we have properties, like I have 3 daughters, then I have properties, Western Cape, Eastern Cape.
Okay.
How does one, with all those, what do you call it, the expenses, the estate expenses that you were calculating,
Yes.
how does one ensure that maybe there is a way not to pay all those expenses whilst you're still alive? Yes, I do have a will where I've said what I want, Jurie.
Perfect. So thank you so much for the question. So to answer your first question, pay the debt with the highest interest first. Let's say you've got $1,000 debt with 11%